We're going to be using value to make our flat paper look 3D. You will have a dish of water and a sponge at your table to wash your brush when you're switching colors. You'll also have the color that you've chosen and the color white. On your drawing, we have put numbers. The first thing we need to do is actually make those numbers a lot harder to see. We're going to do a little bit of erasing so that when we paint, they don't show through our paint. Now, my numbers will be hard for you to see since you're watching this on the video, but on your paper, you should still be able to see them. The first color or tint I'm going to make is my lightest color, and I'm going to be putting this where I have my number ones. I want mostly white paint, so I'm going to scoop some white paint and put it into a new spot on my paint mixing palette. A lot of white paint. Then I'm going to take just a little bit of my main color. I'm going to kind of scoop it from the side so I don't mix all my white in there. I'm going to pull that color over into the white and do some swirling around. I've got a pretty nice light purple. I want to make sure it's significantly lighter, very light, so that I can make a darker version that's not quite the same as the regular purple. In fact, I could test that now to make sure I have enough purples and values. So maybe I'll take some of my purple and I'll make my second value in this bigger area. So right now they're looking pretty much the same value. I want to make sure one is darker, so I'm going to take some more purple and bring it over to one of these spots and mix it in to make it even darker. Now I'm starting to see that I have multiple different values of my purple color. I have a 1, a 2, and a 3. We're going to save our 4 for mixing a little bit of black in at some point to make a more shadowy color. Now I want to make sure I'm using my lightest color, so I'm going to kind of wipe off the edge of my brush on that spot I was mixing, and I'm going to move to my lightest color. Hopefully I don't have a lot of purple left on my brush so I don't make this color any darker. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to fill all of my spaces that have a 1 with my lightest value. When I'm painting these spaces, I want to stay inside my lines as best as possible, but I might cross over the lines a little bit. That's okay, because when I paint the area that's next to it, I can bump into it again or cover up some of the lines, like some of the color that I get outside the lines. But I still want to do my best to stay in the lines to make sure I have a nice, neat project. Also, notice how I'm pulling my brush very carefully and slowly. I'm not pushing it, I'm not scrubbing it. I want to be very smooth with my brush to make this color even. And sometimes I'm just going to go back and forth over the whole thing to make sure that all that color is evenly spread out. I'm going to find my next one and I'm going to fill that with the same value. If you start to run out of a color, you'll need to remix it and try to get it as close to what you had before. Now, I've already used up all my white, so maybe that wasn't the smartest move. It's good to keep a little bit of white handy if you have to redo your color. So I'm going to add a little more white, again a small amount of purple to make sure I get as light a value as possible. That worked pretty well. Now I'm going to go back to filling in the same 1 areas. Okay, I've filled in all my 1s. Time to go to my second value and fill in all of my 2s. Sometimes when you have to get into those tiny little areas, you have to just put a little bit of paint on your brush and barely touch the paper. Don't use the side of your brush because that makes a wide line. So practice using just the tip of your brush sometimes to get those really small areas or to go right up against the edge of a space. Okay, I have done my 1s and my 2s. It's already starting to look a little bit 3D. Now for my number 3, I'm going to use my regular purple, which means I need to wash the white off of my paintbrush. So I'm going to be drawing an X in my water dish and then an X on the sponge because for this kind of paint, we don't want our paintbrush to be wet. Otherwise, the paint becomes more transparent or see-through, and that doesn't help us make our nice bright colors. So I'm going to use my regular old purple and I'm going to fill in all my 3s. As I'm getting to the end of my colors, and I know that this will be the last color I put up against the line, I want to be especially neat, because now I've already painted on the other side. So to keep my nice, neat illusion, I want this color to have a nice flat line next to its neighbor as best as I can. If I do go over, I can always go back and repaint on the other side, but I'll need to wait for this paint to dry. Otherwise, they'll just mix together instead of making a new layer of paint. Okay, I'm finally ready for my final value. This time I'm going to be creating a shade, or a darker color. That means I'm going to need to add a little bit of black. I don't want a lot of black because black can really change the temperature of the color as well. So I've washed my brush, I've dried it on the sponge, and I'm going to take a little bit of black and a lot of purple and try mixing them together. I want to make a nice dark purple. Just a little bit of black. That's already looking nice and dark. Let's test it on my paper. That should work. See how it's not quite as vibrant as the other colors? That's part of the good part. It makes it look more like a shadow. But it also can change. If we do too much black, it could start to make the color look even a little bit green or a little bit blue. So it'll be a little bit harder to make sure we only use a small amount of black. But I already need to mix up some more paint. Now I could be done. I'm looking over and I think some of my lightest values just need one more layer to make sure I really cover up the one that I tried to erase. So if you see that happening, you can always go back to your lightest value and just add a second layer of paint. All right, time to create our value masterpieces.